Oh, hey guys. Uh, I'm Louisa here. Let's give it a couple minutes. Thanks for showing up early. Uh, Meanwhile, if you feel free to leave a message on the chat and let me know what kind of a server that you are working on, or just say hi. It's good to see some old faces inside our Discord community here as well. And let me share my screen. Oh, hey Magnus. Good to see you again. Oh, what's Genesis Engine? Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, cool. All right, let's give it maybe a minute or two to show up. Okay, good. Oh, that's right. Thanks for showing up, Magnus. Good to see you again. Okay, cool. All right, let's get this started. So I wanna, I guess, talk about how to build a forever community. This is based on the study that we've done over almost the past 1.5 years. We do this little thing where we ask people to give a survey about who they are, what they do, what kind of a server they are building, and this we over the time we collected over 1,000 response. So 1,000 communities, maybe 1,500 communities give us share their thoughts about how to build community. So this is a pretty good sample size, and we do find really interesting things within it. And the reason why we call it like a forever community is because Discord, to most people's surprise, has a pretty short lifespan. We see a lot of communities start building and then just disappear. So we want to kind of like share some of the things that we found can make your community just organically grow over time, without much effort, hopefully. Okay, so for this seminar, I guess this workshop, we're gonna do a couple of things. First is that we want to talk about how to build a foundation, and second is how to create great content, and third is we have this concept, a new concept called like feeling heard and accomplished, which is we think that those are the two really important things for both you and your member have a great time in the community. Okay, so before we start, also by if you have any questions during this entire workshop, feel free to just like leave a message there. So first thing is, why do server fail? There's actually lots of different reasons, and so this slide actually go over some of the reasons we see in Web2 communities. So for example, most likely is because there are no new members. And then there are no new fresh content, so the community just feels stale. There's like nobody talking, and then a third reason, which is like the biggest reason why community fails on a larger scale, is because the team just falls apart. I've seen a lot of announcement just basically about, oh, this team is transitioning to this person and the community is going to be so much better, but that happens so often. Okay, but ultimately, one of the points I want to drive through is, well, it's just because you don't work on it anymore. You don't find it worth working on it, which I'm gonna bring this point back again and again. But ultimately, building a community is a lot like building a startup. You call it quit when you quit. So that's kind of like, so it's really important to almost like please yourself in some way, because you're the driving force behind it, very likely. Some interesting stat about Web3, because I know we have a lot of Web3 communities using our bot. We look at, how long they exist, and we estimate about 16% of the Web3 community are still being actively managed after 6 months. So the number kind of goes way down, and there's lots of interesting reason why only 16% of them are continued to be managed, and almost all of them spend thousands of dollars, which is like unthinkable in Web2, but in Web3, due to like lots of reasons, they spend a lot of money on Discord and it still failed. Too busy with the wrong content, I think, is probably the biggest reason when we ask people like why are they not managing their Discord. they never had incentive to begin with because like the content was just not very interesting on the server. Too expensive, right? Because a lot of times you're hiring external moderators, external community managers, and it's just a lot of money. And the third reason why it failed is because it lost its purpose. So every single time you build a community, there's like a why. And for most Web2 or most community, the why is you start with why, and then you build a community. But in Web3, there's a lot of times when people feel like they're being forced to build a community. So one, there's no longer any pressure to build a community. They just like give it up. So they never had a purpose. Nevertheless, losing purpose is probably the reason why most community failed. Um, so in short, like if you wanted to build a pretty sustainable community, I like to call a give and take relationship is what you need to have. You are going to spend a tremendous amount of time and effort in your Discord, and it is not, always sunshine from day one. But during meanwhile, while you're doing it, right? Not like you achieve this goal, but during that process, there's a lot of things that can motivate somebody to to keep going. One is feedback. So I think somebody said feedback is fun when he was creating the game. The idea here is that if you constantly get feedback from your member, valuable feedback, that actually motivates somebody to keep going. And the second is more emotional feelings, which is feeling accomplished. I'm going to talk about it later, but in all the Discord that we've seen, when we talk to a lot of say YouTubers or somebody who like in the startups that are that have clearly 1,000 other things to do and they spend a disproportionate amount of time on Discord, it is almost personal feelings that is attached to the community. So we're going to talk more about that. Okay, so I think to talk about a forever community, we should start from the very beginning. And to build a community is a extremely difficult thing. So this is a survey that we did, and most community actually started by just one person, no matter how much resource that you have, right? You could be in a really big company, but you're the one responsible for Discord. You could be a YouTuber just started out. You could be like a small startups. We are a small startup, so we manage our community just mainly by ourselves. Even if you're a school club, there is this one person responsible for building this thing up, and it is a very lonely process. We did a survey looking at how many people are currently helping you managing your Discord, and about 50% of the survey members say it's less than 3 members, right? So even we're not talking about day one here. We're talking about throughout the entire cycle. Team are small when you first managing your Discord. So what keeps you going? I would say quality is almost universally, people think quality is a hallmark on how great a community is, right? So about 40% of the communities that we survey thinks that the way to measure success is by interaction quality. This data is really meaningful because we ask for survey people. Like, for example, right, people usually think, oh, the bigger your server, the better. But in reality, like about 25% of our survey indicates that, oh, the server owner thinks like growing really fast is really important. And we have a good amount of Web3 communities out there, right? Web3 face a different pressure because they need to grow. But for them, to be successful, it is still about the quality. Quality really matters because you personally, if you're the one that's managing the community personally, you need to feel happy when you're on the server. You need to feel like there is somebody listening to me on the server, and that actually reflected the quality. If every single day you go to a server and all you see is people talking about things that are just not very interesting or not related to you, and it feels like they are forced to try to have conversation for maybe monetary reward, it is the biggest harm it done is actually to you, because you are the one who are just not gonna be happy when you're on the server. So when time to give up, you tend to give up quite quickly. Some other interesting stats is Some people dream about building really big communities, but seven is the number that we like to go for. So this chart shows basically the number of daily active users within our data set. So you can see here for Web 2 and Web 3 server, a medium sized community have about 5 daily active member. So if you're a Web 3, you have about 17 daily active users. So clearly, if you have like 7 people coming in chatting every day, you are about 50% of all Discord community activities. Seven is also a psychological number. We've looked at some studies showing that human can possibly remember 5 people plus or minus two. To have meaningful interactions, especially for online community, right? So if you like, seven is not a very hard number to get either. It is semi doable. So if you have 7 people, that's you probably have a really successful community to build further upon. By the way, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave it in the chat message. Second part is about creating good content, right? Like it's basically the old question: what do you do when you are within a what do you do when you are on a Discord server? And I think our thought process have changed a lot about this topic as well. So first is there is no community for the sake of community. That's just kind of weird, right? Like usually you are doing something, and the community is basically a place where for people who like consuming your content, using your product, a place for them to get together so that you can get feedback. It's usually around some expertise, right? So, and let me give you another example that's it's obvious in a commercial sense, right? Like for example, we do bots, so like we do a lot of AI stuff. So like ideally I want our community to be about like building communities or doing like AI technology. But a more trivial, more subtle example would be, for example, you are building a social community that's about anime watching, right? Why do you do that? Because you probably love this anime like a lot in order to do this, or you watch a ton of anime. So there are some sort of expertise around what you do, right? So in those cases, what we see very often happen is that there's always constant watch party happening about the latest anime show. So people are discussing, oh, which anime I should like be watching next, right? So there's like expertise almost start by you. You're the one who decide what the content is going to be and what kind of conversations that you want people to have within your communities. Okay, if you it's hard to kind of like come across your domain expertise within the community. There's a lot of things that you can do, and it all require effort to like gradually build upon them. But if there's like one thing you can do, which is to make good announcement about what you're working on, and that's coming more from a maybe business or commercial perspective, right? If you're doing a product, make weekly announcement about what you're working on, what's being shipped, what's the obstacles, and you don't have to do it very often, but consistency is important. So for example, right, we do it basically once a week. We talk about what's being shipped, what we need feedback on, what are we working on this week. So yeah, so start with little things and build on top of it. Over time you will kind of like get a better sense about what you want this community to be about. So from at this point, we basically talked a lot about how community is a one-man effort. There is tremendous amount of work that somebody put into their community in order to kind of like get the ground started. But then over time, you want to give your members ways to contribute. So it's let me give you an example. So for example, we use forums to constantly asking for feedback. So the fact that um, we could just tell people, oh, don't forget to give us feedback, right? We could just like mention it from time to time. But what we did is that we changed the server setup. We in fact have 2 forums dedicated to help and bot feedback, right? So a little things that you can do. You want user to know how they can contribute almost instantly from the UI perspective. They can look at this. You don't need to talk to them about it. They know, oh, okay, if I have feedback, I can give it there. Another good example would be a very popular among smaller non-commercial server is basically to give them, you can invite members to host events themselves, right? So what happened here is you can say, oh, we're looking for volunteer to host this watch party, or like we are looking for some volunteers to do this live match I don't know, like watch party together, right? So you want people to have ways that they can contribute so that if somebody is really interested in you, he can go, oh, this is the next thing that I can community. Okay, so this brings down to focus on process, right? So people like if you're in a community, people don't know how to contribute just by default, right? They know how to chat, but they don't know, oh, this is a thing I can do to make this community better, even though they really want to do it. So you should think about kind of like the process about, so the first thing to think about is what can a community member contributes, right? So a good example is there is a server that does like UI UX improvement for students and people who wants to be, I guess, a UI designer. So they do this program where you can apply with a Google form to be a senior UX designer, and then you will have the privilege of give feedback to new people, and they will just basically verify your seniority and your expertise on it, right? So think about things that you want people to do, and then you should build your server around those actions, right? So you needed to maybe as a different channels. Oh, we are looking for volunteer to do this and this and that. It could be maybe a different survey bot, right? It depends, but the goal is show and tell. When people nobody ask, oh, what can I do in the community to contribute other than being a mod, right? People don't usually say it, but they can see what's happening and they know exactly what to do. um, so I'm gonna use an example of an anime server because it is not obvious on how to get people to kind of like involve in it. But in some really successful anime server, we see people have a couple of things they can do, right? So they can first like vote for which anime they should be watching every month, and then they can apply to host those events within their time zone, right? Because Discord tended to have different time zone. So you could technically have 3 watch party for different continents. And then there is a shout out channels. So, oh, this user hosted this watch party. So give members spotlight so that everybody knows like how cool they are, contributed to the communities. Um, I'm gonna talk how we do it on our side. So we do a weekly announcement, usually after the team meeting, right? So every week we decide, oh, this is the thing I want to work on this week, and then we just tell people about what they can expect. We also write blogs. That's kind of like how we generate our content and learn new things within the Discord space. And then we do this monthly workshop. So this is kind of like where you guys come in and spend some time with us and leave a chat message if you want. And then finally, we check in on a daily basis. So I usually check in during like afternoon time. We look for feedback, help, suggestions, and that's kind of like a daily process that I do. I would say that this was we have limited resource, right? We are not like hiring a group of mod trying to get our community to be super active, but what we are looking for are people who genuinely interested in our bot and giving us feedback. And so far I would say Discord is a pretty tremendously important part of this process of just getting feedback about our product. And it's so useful that basically our entire team is on it, and that's the first thing that we look at. Okay, so the third part is basically stick around for a long time. And that actually applies for both you, so a person who manages the community, and for your members as well. I want to start on the technical we call it technical purpose, right? Because we have a good amount of community that are more commercial driven. So they have a product that they are supporting their community to do, and it's like the right way. For example, right, we talk about how a lot of Web3 communities don't have a purpose, but it's so obvious what their purpose should be because they're commercial driven and they usually have a product. Getting user feedback is really, really important during early stage. And that's kind of like how we use our community for. Uh, Getting help. So your members should be able to get the help that they need, and usually in a scalable way, right? So if you think about like in 1998, I remember a story about PayPal. I think they had a bug on their site and somebody lost $50. So they drove. So this guy drove all the way to PayPal office in order to get that $50, right? And PayPal has no help system because it's impossible to support everybody. So but if you like think about it now, the right way to do it is maybe community support, maybe a forum support, maybe discord support. There is a lot of startups, SaaS product that are using Discord as their main support channels. And the third purpose, which you can actually talk to your, I guess, your leadership about, is basically Discord is a great place to get people inspired and learn about how to do different things, right? So, for example, we're constantly pushing out new product and new features. So we want our members to learn about those new things, and time is precious, right? We want to kind of like come across, oh, what is really important? Why are we doing this? Talk about the story behind it, so people get inspired and people would be willing to try more, right? So those are, we call it like business purpose. I would say if you are pretty much related to the product, getting user feedback is a very valuable process. Uh, in a private setting is even more valuable, right? Because like if there people have complained, ideally it will be on Discord, not on Twitter. Um, Yes. So, but there is also a reason about like why we people would stick around personally, right? It could be like your job is basically to manage in a Discord, or it could be like you are doing this like purely voluntarily. But I would say the most successful Discord that we've seen, it doesn't matter if it's a commercial Discord or if it's kind of like a but the most important thing that we see is that it almost always is personal. And a great example would be with YouTubers. We work with some YouTubers, and at the very beginning, they were quite concerned about spending a lot of time within their Discord because the idea is, oh, I want to like make my new content. But eventually, they ended up spending a lot of time, like disproportionately amount of time on Discord. And the reason is because on Discord, the ideal situation is that you can find stakeholders, people who believe in what you or your team is doing, and they're rooting for you. And that is the emotional support that you get. That's kind of like your fan, like you put your fan in one place, which is like incredibly cool experience. Mods have very special positions inside of a community. I remember we have this one member that plays our hype engine, which is a feature that we have. And the reason that he plays it every single day is so that he can be number one on the leaderboard, but specifically beat the moderators, right? Because moderator is such a cool thing. He wants to be better than the moderators. They look up to you, right? Personally, like if you are a core part of the community, they are the person, you are the person that everybody wants to talk to, and that's a great feelings to have. Um, and finally, eventually you get to a stage where you start making friends. You start to know where this person are coming from, what's their hobby, what do they like. You just want to check in with them, right? If they have major milestone in life, you want to celebrate with them. It's kind of like a friend. Like once you have a friend, there is no equation about why you should be on it or not, right? You want to be there with your friends. So those are some of the reasons why we see somebody will be sticking around the Discord, like as a community server owner. And I would say eventually you'll find somebody that you really care about. So you just check in with them all the time. Uh, in terms of why people will stick around inside of your Discord, right? So you need those people, you need a lot of them in order to carry this community forward. We like to say like two things: being heard and feeling accomplished. So being heard is they're completely different aspect. So being heard is about feedback, right? At the very beginning, I would say in the online community, nobody is gonna like share their personal life with you, right? People usually give you feedback about your product. So in those cases, you always want to respond, right? Even if this is a ridiculous idea, you should just tell them this is a ridiculous idea, that but in a nice way, of course. Um, but respond, getting feedback is really important. And second is basically if you can take somebody response, act fast. So in some community, we see like incredible feedback loop. Somebody was like, "Oh, you should do this thing." And then 5 minutes later, they've done it because it's like a really small thing they can do and it kind of makes sense, right? So act fast if you can. You give your member just like a little delight point to say, oh, they're hearing what you're doing. And the third part is basically, so people usually would give you feedback first. That's a really easy, uh, I would say, secondary level of interactions that you can have, right? But at some point, if your member are asking for feedback, or if you give them a forum where they can ask for feedback, right? An example would be, for example, language learning. You can hop on a voice chat and see how they are speaking, or it could be, oh, I create this landing page, what do you think, right? Basically a place for where people can ask for other people's feedback. Do give feedback, right? If you are really small, you just started out, you're the only one who give feedback, do it. Being heard is probably the reason why people would choose to spend time on Discord versus choosing to spend time on TikTok, which is like far more addicting than Discord. Use feedback as a leverage point, right? So one of the things that we notice within community, especially within commercial driven community, is that people don't necessarily want to talk about themselves. It's kind of weird, right? I'm not going to share what I eat for dinner because this is supposed to be about the product. So to transition from being just purely about help and support, which has a far less and lower engagement rate, to something that's more friendly and more cozy, use feedback as the leverage point, right? When somebody give you feedback, they are actually giving you a lot of information. Like you can ask, why do they need the feedback? What are they doing? How are they using it? Right? That's a good point to kind of like get to make a new friend and see what they are up to. So feedback is like, you shouldn't think about feedback as, oh, this person giving me something and this is done. No, it's like it's a beginning of a conversation. It's kind of like a hello on the internet. um, yeah. By the way, feel free. Oh, there is a question. uh, what are some of the successful anime Discord server that are official? Oh, I don't think there are any official anime server. We've seen a lot of like anime watch party server. They are really, really successful. I probably have to get back to you on this one. So about Carbot, so there's different way that you can use, you can get people's feedback. We like to use forum because we can do tags and we can decide if the issue is resolved or not. But Carbot has this great suggestion feature. It is one of my favorite. And I'm taking a screenshot of this community called Banana Server, and user are basically giving them suggestions about the banana game, and the team would do this thing where they would just like right away say if it's approved, considered, or denied, which is like really cool. At least you get the feedback right away. They were dealing with a ton of tickets every single day. I think that's why they're using the automated solutions for it. um, Second part about like emotional support is basically feeling accomplished, right? Or having something fun to do. They are not necessarily the same, but they having something fun to do makes you feel accomplished. This is a really, I think this is a relatively new concept. It's really hard to do. It depends on what kind of a server that you are working on. I would say almost all the server can be constructed and built this way, but some are a lot harder. You have to spend a lot more time to think about it. So let me give you an example, right? Ideally, when people come to a server, there's something that they can do that's obvious to your community, and that's something they also wanted to do, which is the first reason they come to your community. So, a really obvious example would be anything learning driven, right? It could be learning English. I think English Discord community is the biggest learning community on Discord. It could be about you are practicing this thing. It could be UI UX design. Another specific example that we've seen is there was a server where you can learn English and dubbing Japanese anime at the same time. So you're dubbing Japanese into English while learning about English at the same time, right? So people coming in, they naturally are doing this thing. So it's really it's easy, right, for them to say, oh, there's a weekly challenge. Go post whatever you're working on and show your progress. Another could be hopping on a voice chat for this amount of minutes and talking to strangers about this topic, right? So those are really easy tasks that you can create within your Discord to help people learn about what they are here to learn. For example, in our community, an ideal situation would be we give you little challenges that you can do to maybe track how well your Discord server is in terms of UI UX layout, or are you having the right security setup, or maybe like try to improve this matrix on the KPI, and here are some way to improve it, right? So little things to do that's very much aligned with what your members coming in at the very beginning. If people have their own things they want to do, right? That's the best case scenario. For example, right, we see a lot of YouTuber communities. They are mostly very chill. They are about making friends. But sometimes we have members who will talk about their I'm working on this, I'm working on the school projects, or I'm trying to like lose some weight. It would be great if you can notice about them and keep them accountable, right? Checking with them about this. Oh, how are you doing? Uh, what's happening, and that's kind of like how you feel, how you form friendship, and also how you can make a community last very long, because you are actually developing a personal relationship with this person. One example will be study together. So this was a really famous disco group during pandemic, and one of the things they do is every time when you do a study session, basically you open up your voice chat and people just see your face and you're studying. They ask, oh, what is your goal? And have you accomplished this goal, right? So if you wanted to take it further, it would be, oh, you're pairing with this group of people and you guys all talk about if you have accomplished this goal or not. So it is not a trivial concept. It is easier in some community than others, but I feel like almost all communities, you can think about this as what can people do for themselves, or what are some of the goals they should achieve, and how we as a community could help them achieve those goals. And one last thing is competitions. When you have a really strong community, competition makes so much sense, right? So, for example, right, the reason we thought about this is because we were looking at our internal data on Hype Engine. So Hype Engine is a Quest features that we have, and among people who have known Hype Engine for at least 2 months, right? So a good amount of time already. About 20% of them would play Hype Engine every single day, and to do little quests like chat with people, really little like Discord specific related engagement quest. And the biggest reason why they would do it is because they want to be number one on the leaderboard, because they want to have this special role. I mean, we have a lot of member coming into our community want to specify what this role should look like, what color should this role be, right? Like people take like people value being the coolest member among their friends quite seriously. And I think competition, especially when you have a group of people who really care about each other, competition, you can have great competition that basically just push everybody to work so much harder and to achieve their goal. Right. So I think that's something that's extremely unique for a community. So play around with leaderboard, play around with shout out, play around with like Hall of Fame, for example. Starboard is another example on Discord. So those are some of the things that you can do. Uh, Finally, I know we are on top of the hour now. We are building a new Discord listing site. You can go to community1.io/servers to check it out. It works exactly like all the other listing sites in terms of you can put what your community is about, but we are focusing on better search using AI, and also to allow you to publish your announcement channels and your Discord events directly within your server listing page so that people would know how active your community, what you're working on, and hopefully like over time you will get organic users that are truly interested in your topic to join your communities. um, that's it from my side. Any other questions from anybody else? Okay. If there is no questions, feel free to go to our Discord if you have any questions about anything. And we are basically on Discord every day. So see you there and see you for the next event. Bye.